Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mr. Hicks Podcast. We are here, getting it in once again, time and time again. So today's show is actually going to be about the Cleveland Browns. I know that sounds wild. That anyone talks about the Cleveland Browns. I'm sure there is a Cleveland Browns show and podcast, and there are some Cleveland Brown fans out there, and I feel for you. I'm sorry for your experience, your miserable football experience. I had no idea. See, when you do your own show, you're mostly going to do stuff about what you know. What I know is my team. I know the Philadelphia Eagles. I know the NFC East, and I know a little bit about the relevant teams in the NFL. The Browns are not relevant. So the only time I ever hear anything about the Browns is when the Browns do something particularly bad. They're always bad, but the only time you really pay attention to them is when they do something really bad. That's how bad the Browns are. And I didn't realize that until I started doing some research on Myles Garrett. For those of you who don't know, if you've been under some kind of sports rock and paying no attention at all, just got back from the Mars. Good luck, good for you. Myles Garrett has requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns. And then I thought, well, the Browns are pretty bad, so I kind of understand that. He doesn't want to do an extension. I think he's got a couple more years left on his deal. Whew. So I was like, how bad is it? I mean, it's bad, I assume, but how bad? How bad? So Myles Garrett was drafted in 2017. Since 2017, I did the math. They have averaged 6 wins a year. That's bad. They're in the same division with what is it? Is it Baltimore and yes? So that's the one that has Baltimore and Cleveland and the Steelers and the Bengals. So pretty much everybody's better than them every year. I did a little research and found that out. They finish either third or fourth in their division every year. Every year since Myles Garrett has been brought on and was drafted by, in 2017. They have made the playoffs twice in that time. They have all of one playoff win in that time. There's no point, Cleveland. There's no point in keeping one great player when your team is this bad. Your point of acquiring great players is to win football games. Okay? There's no point to keep doing this. One of the main reasons that you can't do this is because you're so bad that you cannot get free agents. Even if you had room, you had cap room, which I'm assuming I can see you don't manage your cap very well. We'll get into that in a second. Even if you have room, the only time players would choose to go to the Browns was for a payday. They've already won a championship, or they're really not that great, but they're the best player at their position. I have a position of need for the Browns. So it's like, hey, you need a left tackle. I'm a left tackle. None of the other left tackles want to play for you. They have better options. So they're going to take those better options. Even though you have money to give them, they're not going to play for you because you suck. I am the third or fourth best option in free agency this year. You need a left tackle. You're going to have to overpay me just to come to your team. And I have this thing where I always say, never pay a B-plus quarterback A-plus money. Well, in order for the Browns to get anybody to come to their organization, they have to overpay, which means that they're going to be really thin at every position because they had to overpay just to get their starter. They don't draft well. The only time a team like the Browns get great players is if it's a fallen off a log draft pick. You're a top three position, and then there's a bunch of really good players in that draft. And then, yes, you end up with a great player like a Joe Staley, like a Myles Garrett. You end up with a great player. but only when you're drafting really high and it's absolutely a no-brainer. If you're drafting like 14th or 15th, you're going to screw it up because at that point there's some options, and many times there's an opportunity for you to make a choice that's not an obvious one. You're not going to make good ones like you do with quarterbacks or free agents or head coaches. So then there's the Deshaun Watson thing. Look, Deshaun Watson has turned out to be a dumpster fire of a human and not a very good citizen and not a very healthy human being in general. He has ruptured his Achilles twice. So now the most recent time he did in January, which means that he's not going to play the entire 2025 season. It takes a long time for those to heal. I've torn my Achilles. I know it sticks with you for a long time, even if you're not an athlete. So the Deshaun Watson trade has been an unmitigated disaster. For those of you who don't know, he was paid a fully guaranteed $230 million in 2022, and he has played all of 19 games since that time. 19 games. $230 million guaranteed. Even if you cut him, he would be a monstrous dead cap hit. Like, as of right now, they just restructured his contract to the point where they put them under the salary cap. Until then, they were $23 million over the salary cap. Are you getting an idea as to how bad this is? Like, this is, it's so bad. It's so bad, you guys. So they're not drafting. There's not a quarterback that's really worthy of the pick that they've got this year. This makes no sense to keep a player of the caliber of Myles Garrett on a franchise that's going to be bad whether you have him or not. That's the thing that I don't understand. Of course you trade Myles Garrett. You give him all the respect that he deserves and appreciation for him sticking with you and sticking it out with the organization. But at a certain point, it just makes sense. Not because, hey, we want to rebuild the team. You're not going to rebuild the team within the next couple of years. He's not going to resign an extension with you. So all you're going to do is he's going to play for a couple of years. He's going to get a couple more steps. And then when he gets an opportunity for you, he's going to leave and leave you with nothing. Because he's going to leave in free agency. So right now, he's in the prime of his career. This is the best opportunity for you to get value for this player. He's in his prime. He could literally take somebody from right there on the cusp to possibly winning a championship, which is why I think the Eagles are trying so hard to get him, because if you take that player and you put him on something, like if he goes for Detroit, that's a problem for the Eagles. If he goes to the Redskins, that is a problem for the Eagles. And they're going to want to take him and put him in the NFC. And we're in the NFC. So it's like, if he doesn't come to us, we have a problem, because he's the kind of game-changing player that you can add him to a good team and make them great instantly. A good defense, you add Myles Garrett to it, changes the entire dynamic of your defense. We know what great defensive linemen do to a team. It makes everybody else's job easier. It makes the quarterback uncomfortable, which means that he doesn't have as much time to throw. Your secondary has time to disguise. That means the quarterback's running for his life all the time. And then by the time he looks up, you realize that you're on a different defense than he thought you were when he made his initial scan of the field, or the scan that he made pre-snap. So now he's running for his life. He looks up. He thought it was quarters. Finally, it looks like now it's man. And now I have to remember where everybody's at. By the time I figure that out, he's sacked. A guy like Myles Garrett demands a double team. He is chaos incarnate. He is great against the run. He is great against the pass. Now under the love fest, I totally get it. But you can demand at least 2 first-rounders and probably 2 starting players for a Myles Garrett. There's not a whole lot of teams that can offer you the players and the picks and have the room in the salary cap to take on his contract. He will probably want an extension even after that. So there's just very few teams that can do it. The Eagles are one of the few teams that are good enough with the cap to be able to structure the deal to get him under, because that's kind of what we do. Sadly, and Howie we trust as always. So one of the things I always appreciated about New England when they were, as much as I hated them, they were really good with the salary cap. They were what I call a high floor organization, where it was like, did you have great players across the board? No, but every player could do what they were needed to do within the framework of the offense and the defense. So is Julian Edelman great everywhere? No. But he's great with Tom Brady because he understands exactly where he needs to be. He does exactly what he's asked to do, and then they always were really good at getting value out of a player, maximum value out of a player, and then they would either restructure deals or they would cut players because it's like, listen, at a certain point, you're worth more to us as an organization in trade value than you are on the football field. And that's what I'm saying. Right now, when it comes to Myles Garrett, there are certain players that if you're a great player on a bad team, you're actually of more value in trade than you are on the field. That's where he is. They should do this deal. Apparently, maybe they're going to try to wait till after the draft. It sounds crazy to me. I'm sure that there are some cap reasons that I don't understand as a layman. However, if you're really trying to improve this team, and you're trying to improve this team as soon as possible, it would behoove to try to make it happen before the end of the league year. But all research that I have found and all the videos that I've seen, reels and what have you, have said this is probably going to be if they move him, it's going to be after the trade deadline. Not after the trade line, after the league year. I am reminiscing right now of the old Detroit Lions where you had a Barry Sanders who was at the top of his game and decided to retire, where you had a Calvin Johnson, top of his game, decided to retire. Would Myles Garrett go that far as to just retire? I don't know what the man's financial situation is. So, and I encourage athletes, if you can. I mean, somehow guys have more money than most people ever see in a lifetime, and still don't have the autonomy to walk away from it because as their pay increases, their bills increase. They start buying bigger things, buying bigger houses, buying more things, and now they need to keep working. So I've always said to that, like, if you can take care of that, any player at any point, I've always believed, especially when you get to that second contract, should be able to walk away from the game on their own terms. And that, to me, really should be the goal. However, I don't know if Myles Garrett is willing to do that. I know we were all shook when Barry Sanders decided to do it. It was a shame when Calvin Johnson did it. But at that point, I think everybody kind of understood. They were so awful. And he was so great. And it's like, I don't know if I could do this either. And like I said, when you're a thousandaire like I am, and you're looking at a millionaire, like, go play football and shut up. I still think there's got to be some wear on you. It takes a lot to prepare to be physically ready for the rigors of the NFL. And I can only imagine having to prepare every year being on a team that you know is going to be dreadful. And I think Myles Garrett is at that point. I don't know what he's going to do about it. Is he going to try to hold out? The league has made a lot of moves in the last few years of like the collective bargaining to make it very difficult for players to leverage that the way they used to. When I was coming up, guys used to sit out and it was absolute chaos. But I think he might do it depending on what he thinks his options are. And I can't say that I blame him. You guys are Browns fans. I'm so sorry. That's my time. Take it easy.